In the 2018 NFL season, an undrafted rookie took the NFL by storm. That rookie was running back for the Denver Broncos, Phillip Lindsay. In that season, he made the Pro Bowl, was an all-rookie team member, rushing for 1,037 yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground, averaging 5 yards per carry. The future seemed bright for the young running back. However, you fast forward to the 2022 NFL season, he was on the Colts practice squad, eventually the active roster, and got released during the 2022 NFL season after appearing in 3 games, and recently signed with the Seattle Sea Dragons of the XFL. One can think that this may be Phillip Lindsay's last chance to get back with an active roster spot in the NFL. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Phillip Lindsay story and what happened to him. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. To start the video off, I'm going to briefly talk about Phillip Lindsay and his high school career at Denver South High School in Denver, Colorado. He was a star running back. He rushed for 2,952 yards in his high school career, along with 29 total rushing touchdowns and 6 touchdowns through the air. However, Phillip Lindsay would only play 2 years on the varsity level in 2010 and 2011 as a sophomore and junior. As his senior season, he would miss the entire year because of a torn ACL. As a prospect in the 2013 recruiting class, Lindsay wasn't the most highly regarded recruit in that class. Yes, he was a smaller running back at 5'9", 175 pounds. He missed his entire senior campaign, which ultimately would stop him getting a lot of traction of offers potentially, and he wasn't from the biggest football state in general in the eyes of the national media or even recruiting analysts from the state of Colorado. He only held a total of 2 offers from Colorado and Utah, and he would choose Colorado over the Utes, staying in state. When Phillip Lindsay got to Colorado, he would opt into being a redshirt for the 2013 season, where he would pick up Offensive Scout Team Player of the Year for Colorado. He would finally hit the field as a redshirt freshman in 2014, where he picked up the nickname by his teammates and his coaches as the Tasmanian Devil. He had ultimately a limited role as a redshirt freshman, but impressed many people when he did play, as on 79 attempts, he rushed for 391 yards, averaging nearly 5 yards a carry. By the 2015 college football season, Phillip Lindsay would be the main running back for the Colorado Buffaloes. He led them in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns during that season, and was even a captain of the team just as a redshirt sophomore. Now, he was not a workhorse running back at this point. It was still a pretty split room, but he did have 141 rushing attempts for 658 yards, averaging 4.7 yards a carry and 6 touchdowns on the ground, along with 216 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. In the 2016 season, that's really when Phillip Lindsay broke out on the scene and made a name for himself on the college football level nationally. As in 14 games played, he had 244 rushing attempts for 1,252 yards, averaging over 5 yards a carry, 16 touchdowns on the ground, along with 53 receptions for 493 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. He was a leader and the star of that Colorado offense, and he was even a second-team All-Pac-12 member. Some thought he was going to declare for the 2017 NFL Draft, but he ultimately came back for one last season at Colorado. In his final season at Colorado, Phillip Lindsay would have even more rushing attempts and be even more of a workhorse for that Colorado offense. In this season, he had 301 rushing attempts for 1,474 yards, averaging 5 yards a carry and 14 touchdowns on the ground. He wasn't as big of a factor as he was in the previous season through the air, as he had 23 receptions for 257 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. After that, his career at Colorado was officially over, where he marked himself as one of the greats in Colorado football history and one of the best running backs to do it in a Buffalo uniform. He finished his career with 3,775 rushing yards and 36 rushing touchdowns, along with 1,084 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns in his career. However, it was not enough for him to hear his name called in the 2018 NFL Draft. Although Lindsay went undrafted, he would be offered a contract as an undrafted free agent by the team that he grew up watching in his own city he grew up in, the Denver Broncos. And as I mentioned earlier, he took the NFL by storm as a rookie in 2018, as he rushed for 1,037 yards, had 9 touchdowns on the ground, along with 241 receiving yards, while making a Pro Bowl appearance and being a part of an all-rookie team. In 2019, his second year in the NFL, he may have taken a little dip in numbers, but it was still a good season. In 16 games played, he broke 1,000 yards, the first ever undrafted player to have back-to-back 1,000-yard plus rushing seasons. He did just that, rushing for 1,011 yards, 7 touchdowns on the ground, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. If you would have asked any NFL fan from the 2018-2019 seasons with Phillip Lindsay, you would have thought that Phillip Lindsay was going to become one of the better running backs in the NFL down the line. However, this is where things start to take a turn in the feel-good underdog story of Phillip Lindsay. In 2020, Phillip Lindsay would battle through multiple injury issues throughout the entire year, but even when he was healthy and playing, he looked like a shell of his former self in his first 2 years of the NFL in 2018 and 2019. He appeared in 11 games, starting in 8 of them, where on 118 rushing attempts, he rushed for 502 yards, averaging 4 yards a carry, and only 1 touchdown. The Denver Broncos would not bring back Phillip Lindsay after the 2020 season. As a free agent for the 21 season, Phillip Lindsay would sign with the Houston Texans. However, he would be the third-string running back behind David Johnson and Mark Ingram. He would only last 10 games in 2021 for Houston, as in those 10 games, he rushed for 130 yards, 1 touchdown, while rushing for a total of 2.6 yards. After he was released, he would sign with the Miami Dolphins. In the 4 games he played with Miami, he rushed for a total of 119 yards and rushed for 3 yards per carry. He would sign with Indianapolis for 2022, where he would play in 3 games with 15 rushing attempts for 49 total yards, where he started off on the practice squad, got elevated to the active roster for 3 games, then went back down to the practice squad, and midway through the season got released ultimately off the team. Now, most recently, Phillip Lindsay has signed with the Seattle Sea Dragons of the XFL, and as I mentioned earlier, this could be his last chance to make himself an active roster running back in the NFL once again, as the Seattle Sea Dragons desperately need Phillip Lindsay. They're one of the better teams in the XFL and one of the more hot teams as well. They're 5-2 and are on a 5-game winning streak. However, they're in the playoff hunt as they're in a very tough XFL North. DC Defenders are 6-1 and the Seattle Battlehawks are 5-2. Both teams are just ahead of them in the XFL standings. And if you haven't been keeping up with the XFL, the Sea Dragons desperately need a running back like Phillip Lindsay. They need a run game, period. In the last couple weeks, with Morgan Ellison being out with injury, their run game has completely been Ben DiNucci, who's been a pretty good running quarterback. However, you need a running back and you need a running identity with a running back to really get your offense going. And for a team in a playoff hunt like the Seattle Sea Dragons, a really good team at that, they need a running back like Phillip Lindsay to bring their team to the next level. And this is going to be an opportunity not only for the Seattle Sea Dragons to make a serious push for an XFL title, but it's going to be a chance to give Phillip Lindsay another shot at getting back to the NFL and being an active roster, maybe even starting running back potentially one day back in the NFL. Well guys, who made this far in today's video, drop something down in the comment section below. What videos do you want to see in the future? And before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.